Hi, my name is David Mann. I'm with ultramusician.com, and I'm here to talk about a new product called Note Pattern Flashcards. This is a computer-generated set of flashcards that contains every single pattern you'll ever need in music. Every chord, every scale, even note patterns that don't have names in our common system. Now, the deck is organized so that each section is separated by a blue card. And that's going to make it easy for you to jump to a section that you're looking for. In the top right of each card is a number that tells you how many notes are in each pattern. So for example, if you are writing a piece for a string quartet, you might want to go to section 4 in the deck and look for patterns that contain 4 notes. In the top left of each card is another number called complexity. Complexity gives a rating of how intense or dissonant this chord is going to sound. If you're looking for a sound that's very mellow and soothing, you should choose a card that has a low number. For example, this card has a rating of 3. This is a C major triad. Or sorry, excuse me, it has a rating of 4. Now, as a composer, you might say, well, I need something that's just a little stronger than that. Okay? We can keep sorting through the deck, and we get to the section where the complexity rating is 5. These are going to have just a little more emotion. Now, let's say that that's pretty close to the emotion that you're looking for, but not quite. On the back of each card, it also lists all the modes or inversions of each pattern. So in this case, the pattern that I played was C, D flat, and F, and it gives the 3 different variations of that pattern. So each one is going to have a very slightly different emotional color. So if, like I said, if the first one's close to what you're looking for, you can go through those different modes or inversions to find the one that's just the right temperature for what you need. Now, supposing that that's still not intense enough and you need something that's even stronger, we can go to the next item in the deck. So I'm going to move along, and this one has a rating of 6, so this is going to be even stronger. Now, if you need something that's even more intense, for example, if you're scoring a horror scene or you just need something with some real teeth, we can keep going through the deck until we get to the 7s. Now, for each pattern, it's going to give several different pieces of information depending on the way that you like to think about music. So at the top, we see letters, which is just a simple spelling of it. In this case, a major triad would be C, E, G. Next, we see it written as scale degrees. This is helpful if you plan to transpose this pattern to another key. In scale degrees, C, E, G would be 1, 3, 5 because it's the first, third, and fifth notes of the scale. So this is going to make it easy if you decide to transpose it to the key of D. You can just easily say, okay, D, F sharp, A. Next, we have pitch classes. Pitch classes is a numbering system that treats each note on the piano or the guitar. It numbers them with C being 0, C sharp is 1, D is 2, E flat is 3, etc. In pitch classes, a C major triad would be 0, 4, 7. Then we have intervals. Intervals is also a chromatic system, but instead each number represents the number of half steps between each note in the chord. So for example, C, E, G, from C to E would be 4 half steps, so you see a 4 down here. From E to G would be 3 half steps, so you see a 3. And G back to the octave would be 5. This is a very handy system because if you ever want to invert the chord, or if you have a scale and you want to find the modes, all you got to do is take the first number and move it to the end. Next we have interval vector. Interval vector is something that's commonly used when people write 12-tone music. It's a count of how many times each interval occurs in the chord. So the first number is how many half steps occur in the chord. Second number is how many whole steps. The third number is how many minor thirds. The fourth number, how many major thirds. The fifth number is how many perfect fourths. And the last is how many tritones. Each number counts for regardless of whether the interval is inverted or in root position. So for example, a minor third would be the same thing as a major sixth in this system. Lastly, we have the name, and the name is simply the name of this chord or scale. Now, a lot of these patterns don't have names. The great thing about that for you is if you look at this deck, probably only about a third of these patterns fit into our common way of naming chords and scales that we've inherited from classical theory or from jazz theory. So another way to use this deck is to just randomly open it up and pick out a pattern. Okay, so for example, I just break open the deck, pull out a card, and a lot of times when I start a new piece, I'll flip through the deck, I'll try something, and as soon as something inspires me, I'll go with it. So let's try this one, for example. The pattern here is C, D, E, F sharp, A. So the great thing here is that just because these patterns don't fit into our traditional system, it doesn't necessarily mean that they sound dissonant or experimental. A lot of these patterns are very beautiful, they're very usable, and they're very accessible. So I hope you enjoy learning about Note Pattern Flashcards. Please visit us on ultramusician.com, and there you can buy a set of Note Pattern Flashcards. You can also learn about ear training, music theory, notation, piano, guitar, and bass.